Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 379, Sunday, March 25th, 2018. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let's see what we got here. Alrighty. Well, I watched Saturday Morning with Maria Bartiromo, and she had both Devin Nunes and Lindsey Graham on this morning. And one thing that you noticed about both Graham and Nunes, something I've been noticing now for a couple weeks, been talking about it, is they seem to be backing off a little bit. Not so much even really backing off, but they seem to be okay with sort of taking a bit of a back seat for the time being. This is to, I'm sure, allow for the Inspector General report to come out. There's a lot of information which is probably evidence that's going to be used by a prosecutor to bring charges against those who are criminally liable. And I think that that's what we're seeing out of Nunes, because weeks and weeks ago, he was really up on the bit. He was real frustrated. You could see he was pushing really, really hard. But in the last several weeks, you just don't really see that. He seems to be okay with laying back a little bit, still wanting to get, information, still requesting and subpoenaing information from the DOJ, from the text messages and things and such. But for the most part, you notice a lot less push from Nunes. Graham commented a bit about the fact that he still wants a special prosecutor to look into the FISA warrant and how all that was done. So you can see that they're still following through with the special prosecutor asking for that, asking for documents, things and such. But they're not pushing the way they were a couple weeks ago, because I think that they know that there's a lot of evidence that there is a lawyer, a prosecutor of some sort, working with the IG, and that they're putting that case together. And that you can expect that they understand that a lot of the information that they would want, information that they would want to get from these witnesses in their interviews, are all going to be part or are maybe have already become part of a criminal investigation. We assume at this point, it looks certainly at this point, like there has been a grand jury convened, which means that the grand jury is, of course, getting testimony from all these witnesses. And we know who a lot of them are, because those are the ones who are still at the FBI, such as Strzok and Page and Orr and Priestep and others. So we can assume that these are the people who have cooperated, probably have testified in front of a grand jury, have produced all kinds of documents and evidence and various other things. So then we have the other group of people who were fired or forced out, and they likely are going to be the targets of the investigation. So this sort of lull period that we're in now, this sort of calm before the storm, is what it really is Nunes and Grassley and others who are watching this. They appear to be okay with laying back a little bit. They're not pushing nearly as hard as they were, because they understand that when the IG when the IG releases his report, that following that is going to be the prosecutions of the individuals involved. And now the only question is, how much range does the IG have? Sessions says, well, I've asked him to look into the FISA warrants. He's looking into the email investigation. He's looking into other things. But we don't know exactly what the parameters are that Sessions has given to this attorney who's working with the IG, and we don't know over 100% where this grand jury has convened or what they're hearing. So a lot of this stuff is still under the surface. It's part of an ongoing investigation. It's happening simultaneously with the IG. So we just don't know a lot. But what we do know is we can watch Nunes, and we can watch Goodlatte, and we can watch Grassley, and we can see that they're not nearly as up in the bit as they were a couple weeks ago, which means they know something is going on. They know that there's something coming out, and they know that the next step for them will be after that happens. So I think that we can assume at this point that when the IG report comes out, there's going to be some bombshells there, obviously. Just about everything that we've had that's been a major bombshell in the past 3-4 months since the beginning of the year, especially since the original January 29th situation where they had McCabe step back, not where he was fired, but where they had him, essentially resign. But he was going to be able to wait 3 or 4 months and then retire. But then, of course, something happened. Christopher Wray got information from the IG that showed they could not wait. Something he did would not allow them to simply let him retire. And to me, that has to be, he may have leaked information and then lied about it, but I'm not so sure that that's the thing that we're looking at here. I think it probably has more to do with the fact that, as we had talked about earlier, that McCabe had ordered somebody to change those 302s, specifically this thing that went down with Michael Flynn, because we had Comey and even Strzok say that they didn't think that Flynn had lied. But then McCabe turns around and says, well, I think he did lie. And at that point, we assume he had someone change the 302 to say, well, because the 302 is essentially a summary of the interview. So the summary of the interview, McCabe didn't like the way that looked when it said, well, Flynn didn't lie. So he said, well, I think he did lie, so change that. So I think it probably has more to do with changing of 302s, which is, of course, is a serious felony. So I think that this is really what we're looking at, is the calm before the storm. Nunes, Meadows, all these guys, they're laying back. Gates, they're not nearly up in the bit like they were weeks ago. They seem to be okay with sort of taking a back seat, waiting for the Inspector General report to come out. Because they know that once that happens and the IG report comes out and it names the various infractions or violations or what have you, exactly right behind following that will be the indictments, prosecutions. It will also open the door for the special counsel, because then Jeff Sessions will be able to say, okay, well, the IG report lays out these things, and our investigation, the IG investigation, was limited in this scope, so we could only look at these things. So now that we have this other information and we have the IG report, it suggests that there may have been officials, maybe in the State Department, maybe with the intelligence services, who may have been coordinating, maybe with the Clinton campaign, other people, and that we need a special counsel who can look at these things, because you can't have the DOJ and the FBI look at themselves, or the State Department, or anything else. So I really think that's what the point that we're at right now, is we're kind of in this calm before the storm, waiting for the IG report to come out, and that will then set in motion a whole series of things, including the special counsel. But something else that will also be a major factor is if in fact the IG report comes out and it does show where there was a coordinated effort by officials in the FBI and the DOJ, not only to fix the Clinton email investigation, but also to put together this counterintelligence operation of what's been described as the insurance policy to try to destroy Trump or his presidency or what have you. This is going to tie directly into the Mueller investigation. So the IG report, not only is it likely to lay the groundwork and the framework for a special counsel, it will lead to indictments of various people within the, I think it'll be the people within the small group. Because if you look at who the people are who are still at the FBI and have probably been turned as witnesses, and then you look at the people who were fired or moved out completely, we assume that they're not cooperating witnesses. These were all people who were involved in this Comey's small group, which was the core of the corruption. So it looks like the people kind of on the outside, not so much on the outside, but Strzok and Page and those, Bruce Orr and others, are going to be the people who are giving up the individuals that were part of this small group, and that's probably going to be the focus of the IG report, is the people involved in this small group. They're the ones that really controlled the fixing of the Clinton email investigation, and that would include Yates and Comey and likely Loretta Lynch, and of course Rybicki, Baker and these individuals, this small group, this is where I think the IG report is going to focus right there. Because the other individuals, they've already been turned. Pre-Step, we can assume, has been turned as well. He knew everything, and he's still in his position. So it appears that when you look at who's still there, who's not there, who is part of the small group, and who would have been the guys calling the plays, that appears to be where the focus is going to be. Now, once you get to that point, of course, these small group people are all tied to Comey and McCabe, and of course that ties you to Mueller, because we know that Comey purposely leaked that information to his friend at the university so that he could leak it to the press to get the special counsel, which of course was going to be his best buddy, Uncle Bob Mueller. So you can see all these things tie together. So something that I don't think a lot of people are thinking about right now, that I think that we're going to learn when the IG report comes out, and then right following that will be likely indictments of guilty individuals, probably those people within the small group. It will carry into people in the Obama administration. That will then open the door to say that there's probably a wider conspiracy here that involve people in the State Department, maybe the intelligence community. We need to have a special counsel brought in so they can look at these people, as well as people who are no longer part of the administration and couldn't be questioned by Horowitz. At which point, that's going to get you into the Mueller investigation. And so I think that something that could very well happen is that once the IG report comes out, the small group is identified, indictments come down, a special counsel is brought in. I think at that point, I think it's going to raise, there's already a dark cloud over the Mueller investigation. Most people, in fact, more than 50% of the people now polled believe it's a witch hunt against Trump. So I think that because Mueller comes out of this small group of individuals, and because we're going to learn that there was some sort of an operation, a counterintelligence operation, this insurance policy, to use the dossier and this false information in the dossier to frame Trump. When you take all that and put it together, and then you cannot separate that from the Mueller investigation. So I think another thing that we're going to really see here is that the Mueller investigation, after the IG report comes out, is going to take a massive, massive hit. It's going to be very tough for Mueller to continue his witch hunt when in fact the IG report comes out and says, yeah, there was a coordinated effort by people in this small group to fix the email investigation for Clinton and then to run a counterintelligence operation to frame Trump. If you have this information coming out in the IG report, it's going to seriously tarnish Mueller's investigation, because essentially what's he investigating? He's investigating Trump-Russia collusion, which the IG report is going to tell us was part of a plot by the deep state insiders and the small group and those on the peripheral who were brought in to help keep this whole thing going. And I think that that's why the Mueller investigation is in serious trouble, and why Trump should never speak to Mueller in the first place. Because if he just waits a little while longer after that IG report comes out, at that point, it's going to rattle the credibility of the overall thing that Mueller's looking at, Trump-Russia collusion. I mean, if we learn that it was a plot, part of an insurance policy, a counter-intel operation to frame Trump, then the whole thing almost becomes moot. So I think that the IG report coming out could seriously damage and curtail very quickly and bring about the end of the Mueller investigation, which now appears to be moving in the direction of trying to find a obstruction or some sort of charge like that. He wants to look at why Trump fired Comey, or why he fired McCabe, or what have you. This isn't going to go anywhere, really, and it's not going to matter because once the IG report comes out and this small group is identified, probably most of them, if not all of them, indicted, then the special counsel, Sessions, will then have the cover he needs, bring the special counsel. The entire Mueller probe is just going to fall apart because it's all prefaced on the Trump-Russia collusion, which is going to be called into question in the IG's report because it was part of an operation, the insurance policy. So that, I think, is a wider look at what we can expect from the IG report. We're just having to be patient and go through the next couple weeks where I think there's going to be a lull. But it's the calm before the storm. There's no question that the IG report is going to drop some fairly damning information. We already know that just from the things that the IG has already released to us. You know, everything we've learned in the last 4 months, since the end of January specifically, has all come from the IG report. And so that's why I think that when you watch Nunes and you watch Goodlatte and Grassley, they seem to be not so much up on the bit anymore. They seem to be okay, having moved into the background a little bit, waiting for the IG report. And then once that comes out, I think you'll see them move back again and become more aggressive and pushing for the special counsel. And likely they'll have access to everything that was in the IG report. And that's why Nunes and Grassley are not pushing so hard to interview Strzok and Page and Baker and all these people, because they know it's already been done. They've already been interviewed, probably given testimony to the grand jury. They've probably already reached a deal to cooperate. So Nunes is going to get, as well as Goodlatte, Grassley, they're going to get all that information. You know, now if they still have some questions of their own that were not asked, then they might have those interviews. But right now, you don't see them pushing for it. They seem to be happy, sitting back, waiting for the IG report, which means they must know that that there's something very damning coming out, and that's when they'll reassert themselves. Is once the IG report comes out, they'll piggyback off of that, use the energy from that to move forward. And that's what all this is telling me when I look at it and just watch and see how everyone seems to be sort of laying back right now. Everything is in anticipation of the IG report and what that's going to do, because that's going to reset. It's like hitting a reset button. Once that occurs, then it's gonna be a completely different situation, looking at the months going forward from where we are now. So I think that's kind of where we are, and this is what I expect to happen. Now, many of you may have read McCabe's latest op-ed, which you can see McCabe in this particular op-ed. He essentially comes out in the midst that he lied, but now he's stating in this op-ed that, well, that he lied, but that it was because he was confused or distracted. So now he's making excuses for why he lied. So what you really see going on here, though, I mean, the op-ed and all this is just window dressing, really. And you see it with Brennan, you see it with Clapper even coming out now and admitting this Sunday morning that almost like he had some sort of a, evil twin or something that was doing all this stuff. Not actually him, but some sort of super ego or something that was actually doing this or whatever. So you can see that what you have going on here with McCabe, with Clapper, with Brennan, with all these people, is that they realize that the IG report's coming out. They realize they're going to be implicated. They realize there probably will be a special counsel. They know that they're up to their eyeballs in this. Brennan knows how involved he was in the dossier. He knows he lied under oath to the Congress about when he knew about the dossier and whether or not it was used to get FISA warrants or whatever. These guys all know that they're in hot water, that they're likely going to face criminal indictment or some sort of criminal penalty. So, as is usually the case when this happens, what they want to do now is, and the reason of writing these op-eds and the reason of going on TV, they can't make a full-throated defense of themselves because they know they're guilty of the things they did. So they will admit to the things that they did, but give us lame excuses why they did it. But the whole idea is to set the stage to make it into a political issue and not a criminal or a legal issue. They want to try, they want to have their cases tried in the court of public opinion. They want to use the media to go out there and try to shift everything around so that it looks like, oh, well, this is a political witch hunt. This is exactly what they're going to do. They're going to try to make it a political football and make it look like it's the Trump administration using politics to go after them, and because they don't want to talk about the criminal infractions that they were involved in, so they're going to try to make it a political operation and put it to the court of public opinion, hoping that in the court of public opinion they can sway enough people to their side that they can cause a prosecutor or what have you not to want to go down that road, because they don't want to stir up political turmoil. They don't want to, turn the whole thing into a political football, which is exactly what these individuals want. They want to make it all look like it's a political witch hunt on them. And this way they can get the protesters out, they can get the Democratic, the George Soros crowd, and the excuse me, and the left-wing media. They can get all these people organized and energized to try to make it look like a political witch hunt, which they hope will cause Sessions or an attorney or a prosecutor or whatever to get a little weak in the knees about pushing forward with real prosecutions of these people, because they don't want the political fallout. So you try to politicize it, put it into the court of public opinion before it ever hits the courts. This is exact opposite of what Nunes, Sessions, and those people are trying to do. That's why they're keeping everything low key, waiting for the IG report to come out. They want to use the Inspector General, because if you look at what they're doing up into this time, they keep going out there and building up the credibility of Horowitz. They need to make Horowitz look like this individual who's above everybody. He's not left, he's not right, he's not on a political witch hunt. He's just on a fact-finding mission, and based on the facts he finds, here's his report, and based on that, here's what we have to do. So it's about both sides going through their ceremonial pre-fight exercise to prepare to prepare the country or people, regardless of which side of the politics they're on, to prepare them for how best to receive or take in everything that's going to happen, is to lay the groundwork for what's going to happen after the IG report. As you can see, it's the political shuffling and it's the political maneuvering that's happening right now to set the stage so that whatever happens, both sides want to be able to use it to their advantage. So this is really what you see, the political jockeying leading up to what is the inevitable, which is the release of the IG report and everything that will follow. One last thing here. Trump did a tweet this morning, and he said, that basically he's going to build the wall, that he's got his $1.6 billion or whatever to go ahead and get started on the wall. And but if you notice in that tweet, I don't know how many of you saw it, but in that tweet he basically says, hey, it's a matter of national defense. So as most of us have learned over the past couple of days, when Obama would get these omnibus bills, he would simply take the omnibus bills and simply fund the things he wanted to fund and do the things he wanted to do with the money. He didn't pay a particular amount of attention what the money was supposed to go for when they put the omnibus together. He just went ahead and did what he wanted with the money anyway. And so you can see that this is exactly the track that Trump is going to take. And he's also going to play the issue in a different way. He's going to say, hey, we got all this money and $1.3 trillion, and a lot of this money, 80 billion of it went to military, things like that. And you can see from Trump's tweet this morning, he's saying, okay, well, the issues that are happening at the border are a matter of national defense. So now, based on the fact that it's a national defense issue and the president, the executive branch, runs pretty much the national defense, Trump can use dollars from this omnibus bill to build the wall because it's a issue of national security or national defense. So it's just another, it's really exactly the same type of thing Obama did and probably other presidents before him. It's just another way they can manipulate the system. So this is what you can see the direction Trump is going with this. He's going to do essentially what Obama did. He's going to direct dollars where he wants them to go, for what he wants them to go for. And if he has to change the narrative or what have you to play into his favors, in this case, saying, okay, well, this is a national security, it's a national defense issue, therefore I'm authorizing X amount of billions of dollars to go to doing this or this or this, it's exactly what he's going to do. Now, Obama would use that money to go to all these radical left-wing groups and think tanks and organizations. He would funnel money from the omnibus into those sorts of things. And so you can see that this stuff all gets very politicized, and which is not really what you want, but that's the environment that we live in. And at least ways with Trump, he's not doing it. He's not going to abuse the situation just to advance left wing or right wing or some sort of an agenda. He's going to do it to get something done that he campaigned on, that he wants to get done, that he believes needs to be done, and that he believes he can make an argument is of interest in to national security. So that appears to be the track he's taking, and that's exactly what he should do. I mean, you're in the swamp. The swamp has its own rules, and you can take advantage of the situation every way that you can. You got to do whatever you can do. It's a nasty, dirty, ugly situation, but you have to do what you have to do in order to win, and that's what Trump's all about, winning. So we'll see, and we'll follow exactly how this plays out over the next couple of weeks, and we'll continue to be in this sort of a calm before the storm, this lull period, waiting for the IG report to come out. And until that happens, what we're going to get is a healthy dose of posturing, political posturing on both sides, as both sides try to set the stage for how they want to handle what's coming out. Obviously, the guilty want it to be put into the court of public opinion and turned into a political football. Sessions, Trump, the other side, Nunes, they want to try to keep it purely as a legal criminal issues based on the integrity of the IG report. So this is where the fight's all going to come down to. But ultimately, it's going to be, these things are going to be played out in the courts, and public opinion and all these other things are going to be a factor, but they can make things a lot messier, but they're not going to change the end result. And you can see all this going on. This is what McCabe's op-ed was about. This is why Clapper and Brennan are doing the tweets and going on the news programs they go on. This is all the political posturing that's going on to set the stage for what everybody knows is coming. So stay patient, stay focused on the ball, and we'll see where it all goes as we move closer to the day when the IG report comes out. Thank you for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow on Monday for another TowerGate. See you guys. Bye.